This woman that you believe was a reliable, good memory says that there is a verse in the Qur'an. Find it for me. I could be wrong, because I haven't checked myself. So what does it hurt you to find it for me and prove that it's there? Prove Aisha is right. Does it say they read something?
No.
It says Ibn Kathir and Abu Amir read. Do you read a text? Yes. Therefore, if they are reading a text that is different, is the text different? Yes. So when he abrogated 10 sucklings, he brought something better in its place. 5 sucklings. Now you're claiming that that was abrogated, but the hadith does not say it was abrogated. So show me a hadith here. Wait, listen. Show me a hadith that states that 5 sucklings was abrogated. And thank you very much for engaging like an intelligent, mature adult. Unfortunately, there's a lot of teenagers around here, even with grey beards. So in Sahih al-Muslim, 1452a, it says, Aisha reported that it had been revealed in the Holy Quran that 10 clear sucklings make marriage unlawful. Then it was abrogated and substituted. That means the substitution is now in the Quran, doesn't it?
Yes.
Right. By 5 clear sucklings, and Allah's apostle died, and it was before that time in the Holy Quran. So Aisha is saying that there used to be 10. I've given you the reference, Sahih Muslim 1452.
There's no hadith in the Quran.
So now find for me the Quranic verse where it says 5 clear sucklings.
I want to read it in Arabic.
Yeah, of course.
Where is it, Sahih Muslim?
Sahih Muslim 1452a.
1452A.
1452a. I didn't make up the numbering system, bro. Someone else made up the numbering system. Do you trust this website?
Oh, it's from Sahih Muslim.
My brother, let me advise you.
No.
Salah hadith is a big subject.
Now notice,
He's not qualified.
He ran from this debate.
He's not qualified.
And
What
we're
we have to
talking
establish
because
for
they refuse
who God
to
is.
debate.
He doesn't know who God
He's
is.
running from the debate.
He
doesn't
know
want him
who
to
God
debate the
is.
topic either.
So that's the first thing he called to. What's the
Why
first thing the Prophet called to?
answer the question, please?
What's the first thing the Prophet
What's the question, please?
What's the first thing the
Now
Prophet called to?
notice the Muslims are running from the debate. Here they are coming to Christians saying your Bible's been changed, never providing a shred of evidence. I've proven with evidence that their Quran has been changed, and they're all running from it. They're all running from it. So the text states that there used to be 10 sucklings. I'll talk to the crowd. So the hadith states that there used to be 10 sucklings in the Quran. That was substituted, it was abrogated to 5, and that the verse about 5 sucklings for adults was in the Quran at the time of Muhammad's death. So it's a simple question. I mean, I might be wrong. They might find the verse. I'm open to them finding the verse. I could be wrong. I'm only asking a question. So can you find the verse about 5 sucklings in the Quran, please? Maybe work together as a team. Get out your Google phones. So use your encyclopedias. Use your Google. Back one another up. Support one another. Bring me the evidence that your Quran has not been changed, because I've brought you evidence that it has. Great. If you want to jump into this conversation, sir, you're more than welcome. Hang around. If he walks off, I'll come and debate with you. Right, so now please find me the verse about 5 sucklings. Yes, if you want to. Whilst he's finding his tasfir on the hadith, could you find the 5 suckling verse in the Quran? Could you find the 5 suckling verse in the Quran? Could you find the 5 suckling verse in the Quran? Come on, guys, it's not that hard. Aisha said it was there. This woman that you believe was a reliable, good memory says that there is a verse in the Quran. Find it for me. I could be wrong, because I haven't checked myself. So what does it hurt you to find it for me and prove that it's there? Prove Aisha is right. Because if you can't prove Aisha is right, I've proven to you using your Quran that your Quran has been changed. And yet all you Muslims, you come to us Christians saying that the Bible's been changed. We ask you so much for a shred of evidence and you can never produce anything. You can't produce diddly squat. You know why? Because you believe the lies of your dawagandists. And you never look into facts. Have you found it yet?
I'm just reading.
Okay. Yeah, bring Shamsi. Please bring Shamsi.
Wait, do you want me to ask him?
No, bro. Yeah, bring Ali Dawah.
Wait, do you want me to ask
Bring
him?
Mohammed Hijab. Bring your fat sheikh over there.
Mansour?
Bring Mansour.
Do you want me to ask him?
No, bro.
Why?
Let him come here. Let them go
Fair
and
enough.
get him.
Well, I tell him that you challenged him. You sure?
No, bro. You stay here. Right, go
The
on.
Muslim's going to get him.
Al-Iraqi, who is a hadith scholar, said that an example of the verses whose ruling and recitation were both abrogated,
Yeah.
is the one referred to in the hadith in Sahih Muslim on the authority of Aisha.
Right.
Allah be pleased with her, among what was revealed. So this, what they're saying is that it was abrogated by speech, because at the time the entire Qur'an hadn't been compiled, so they had the oral tradition.
So let's be clear.
Okay.
What you're admitting is that the Quran that Muhammad left behind him when he died is not the Quran that you have today. It's not the Quran corpus you have today, because you're saying that this verse about 5 sucklings was abrogated by word.
Yes.
Right, on whose authority?
It was the verses were only abrogated by the Prophet, as far as I know.
Yeah, right. So, doesn't it say in the Quran? Doesn't the Quran state that if Allah abrogates something, He brings something better in its place?
Well, I don't know what he might have brought better in his
Right.
place, but I have
So what was brought
a hadith scholar saying that it was abrogated through speech.
But what you have is a hadith
Right.
that states, right? So your scholar is trying to get Islam out of a problem.
But this scholar is like from I don't know how many centuries ago.
Brilliant.
So unless
He's still trying to
unless
get
he
Islam
knew-
out of a
Unless he knew
problem.
that we're going to have this discussion.
Of course,
Okay,
because this was an issue for Muslims. When Hafs and Warsh and Dori came along, Muslims had to understand. Wait 1 second. Muslims had to understand how is it we've got different Qurans, and so they had to create a whole bunch of hadiths to explain that. It was an internal debate amongst Muslims that created this kind of logic, but it says in your Quran, remember you can't contradict the Quran. The Quran states that if Allah abrogates something, He brings something better in its place. So when He abrogated 10 sucklings, He brought something better in its place. 5 sucklings. Now you're claiming that was abrogated, but the hadith does not say it was abrogated. So show me a hadith here. Wait, listen. Here's how you advance your argument. Show me a hadith that states that 5 sucklings was abrogated. Show me a hadith where it says 5 sucklings was abrogated.
No, I don't have. I have a hadith scholar saying that it was abrogated by speech.
Right, so great. If the hadith scholar is going to say, is going to make the claim that it was abrogated by speech, then that hadith scholar must surely know of a hadith that records Muhammad abrogating that verse, because otherwise he's just making it up.
Right. So do you want me to find one?
Yes, I want you to find me a hadith where Muhammad abrogates 5 sucklings.
Okay, but honestly speaking, is that really going to change your mind on this? If I find you a hadith, will that change your mind?
It would win you the argument.
Well, I mean, I'm not here. I mean, that's okay, fine. I won the argument, but would it change your mind?
I mean, in what sense? That this is a valid
Yes,
argument?
at this point.
Yes, it would.
It would.
Yeah, show me that.
I'll have a look. You know this? Yeah. You know this actually. I'll have it
At one point, it's in the video he minutes.
Right, and just while you're finding that,
What they ask.
I just want to read to you what your Quran says, because remember, a hadith can't contradict the Quran. And the Quran states, right, it says, never do we abrogate any sign, nor cause it to be forgotten, unless we bring one better than it or similar to it. So therefore, the Quran is saying that if Muhammad abrogates the 5 suckling verse, he should bring something similar to it or better than it, and you should be able to find it. Because your Quran is saying that. Now I just want to point out that very verse that I've just read to you is subject to textual variance amongst the Quran. So for instance, in the Qira'at of Ibn Amir, it reads as, never do we command the abrogation of any. So one version of the Quran says, never do we abrogate any sign, but the other version of the Quran says, never do we command the abrogation of any.
Okay, so this is from...
So that's a textual variant
this is
right
from
there.
a sharh of the hadith. Sharh meaning explanation, right?
That's an explanation of the hadith. I want to see the hadith.
Okay, hear me out first.
Go on.
So Imam Nawawi, right? He said, he provided an explanation for it. This means that the abrogation of the 5 feedings was a very late stage in the life of the Prophet ﷺ, almost at the point where he passed away, with some people still reciting 5 feedings as though it is the Qur'an. This was due to them not being informed of its abrogation because of how late it happened. When they heard it had been abrogated, they ceased to do so.
Right. So what you've done is not what I've asked you to do. All you've done is gone from one scholar's statement to another scholar's statement to say exactly the same thing that your first scholar's statement said. And the point is, I'm not interested. Well, let me finish. My argument is Quranic. Your statement, the Quran states that if Allah abrogates something, he brings something similar to it or better than it.
No, but are we talking about the hadith, or are we talking about this ayah?
Right,
Because
so the
ayah has a
hadith,
separate explanation, the hadith has a
one
separate-
second. The hadith states that in the Quran, and your scholars admit that in the Quran there used to be a verse that said 10 sucklings, and there used to be a verse that said 5 sucklings. I mean, you could end this debate now just by producing the verse of 5 sucklings. Can you produce that verse? Maybe he'll help you.
No, but that's not the point. The point is that we have classical hadith scholars that have said that this was recited at the time.
So what are they basing that on?
Had not reached it.
What hadith are they basing that claim on?
Do you want me to go even further back into their
I
sources?
showed
Because
you.
I don't think I can do that on the
I
spot.
showed you a very clear hadith.
I know, but the thing is...
So you need to no wait. I showed you a very clear hadith that testifies to the fact that there's 5 sucklings in the Quran.
Okay.
You need to show me a hadith where Muhammad abrogates that because your scholars are claiming that it was abrogated.
But your requirement is that it has to be in hadith form. I don't know if it's in hadith form. What I can say is that your...
What form would it be?
It might be in some written historical text. It might like how
like
Imam,
Sirah literature?
If Imam Nawawi said that it had been abrogated, then I would have to see what he based that on. But I'm looking at just quotes online. But your requirement of it specifically having to be a hadith is kind of illogical.
No, it's really logical.
I'll tell you. I'll
Go on,
tell you why.
go on.
Because you're reading a hadith, you don't speak Arabic nor understand it, and then
Nor do most Muslims.
No, that's not the point. The point is that then you read Qur'an and you don't read Arabic or understand it. Neither do you read the explanation. If I go to a rabbi and say, "Can you please tell me about Christianity?" That'd be quite silly.
Rabbi wouldn't. Yeah.
Well, whatever he does, but that'd be quite silly. If I go to a Christian and I say, "Oh, can you answer this question for me?" His answer, whether I accept it or not, or think it's a good answer or not, is not my point. It's not. I cannot tell him that no, actually, you don't believe that. He's the Christian. He knows. You're the Christian. You know the answers about Christianity. You're asking me what Muslims believe. This is what's written in our Islamic fatwas and was written in our hadith explanations. Now, if you're not accepting that as what is the mainstream view, and you're saying that the Muslims had a big disagreement, so they had to come together and make up hadith, where's your evidence for that?
Okay, so let's be clear. And thank you very much for having a calm conversation. I do appreciate it. Right? I appreciate this kind of dialogue. But let's be clear. Muslims in this part come to Christians all the time telling Christians that the Bible's been changed.
Right.
They don't know Greek. They've not studied Greek.
Okay.
They don't know Hebrew, and they've not studied Hebrew.
Yeah.
And yet and yet Muslims all the time come to Christians telling us about what our Bible teaches us.
Right.
So I'm glad that you've now condemned the behaviour of 99% of all the Dawagandists in this part.
Well, I don't know if that's 99%.
Right, but let me go forward. Because Muslims come to Christians claiming that the Bible has been changed. They never show any evidence. They never present any argument. I've come to you and I've said that your Quran has been changed. I have shown to the effect that it has been changed archaeological evidence of... You might not have been here for that bit. I can always repeat it for you. I have shown archaeological evidence that your Quran has been changed. I have shown sources in your hadiths that you don't dispute are saying that there was a verse in the Quran that is no longer there in the Quran. And I have also shown to you that there are different Qurans being recited today. I'll just go over that last point again because you probably missed it the first time. So for example, the verse that I read to you where it says, we never do we abrogate any sign nor cause it to be forgotten unless we bring one better than it or similar to it, which means that you should be able to show me a verse that is better or similar to the one that was abrogated. So I want to see that verse. But there is actually a textual variant amongst your Qur'ans today about how that verse is written. In one variant given by Ibn Kathir and Abu Amr, it reads, rather than saying cause it to be forgotten, it says in addition, it says, nor postpone it unless we. So there's additional words in one version of your Quran over this one.
Nor postpone it, what?
So, look, I'm reading from Fadl Solomon Bridges' translation of the Quran.
Yeah.
Right, Fadl Solomon, it's a Muslim production.
Yes,
Muslims made this, right? And they know textual variants between existing Qurans today in the very verse that I've used. So when it comes to abrogated, never do we abrogate. In some versions of the Quran, such as that by Ibn Amir, it reads, never do we command the abrogation.
Okay.
So you've got textual variants in your Qurans existing today. You've got textual, you've got textual variants in your Quran today versus your most ancient Qurans. That's the archaeological evidence. And you've got your hadith saying that your Quran at the time of Muhammad is not the Quran that you have today.
Wait. So let me get this straight. So
I'm not going to say anything else because
the textual variance that we're talking about is abrogation, right? That's what I've said from the beginning, is that the verses have been abrogated. And now, when I say to you that a hadith scholar has said something, you're not taking it, but when Ibn Kathir does a tafsir or something, you read me two different parts there. One was about.
So when I quote Ibn Kathir, right? I'm quoting Ibn Kathir because he records textual variants of the Quran, and I'm presenting that as evidence. Let me finish. He's reporting textual readings of the Quran, and I'm using that as evidence to the claim that the Quran has been changed. When I quote hadith, I'm quoting it because it's evidence that the Quran has been changed. When I quote academic studies of comparisons between your modern 1924 version of the Quran and your ancient text of the Quran, I'm quoting it as evidence that the Quran has been changed. The reason why I would accept your scholarly opinion if you could show me the hadith that he's basing it on. But the point is, you haven't provided a hadith. You've just given me an opinion of a scholar. But opinions of scholars are like belly buttons. Everybody's got one.
But it's
a scholar's opinions that isn't based on evidence is not worth diddly squat. It's no better than yours or mine.
No, in Islamic tradition, it is worth something because
even though it's got no evidence backing it up.
The same way that you're using it to interpret the Quran in its non-primary language, how you're using tafsir, for you that holds weight. I've given you two hadith scholars which arrived at the same conclusion, that one was abrogated by speech and that it was done.
And neither of them gave you any evidence. Neither of them gave you any evidence for their claims.
What's the evidence that the Arabic text was incorrect in those
right.
Qur'an?
So firstly, I never made any mention about whether it was correct or incorrect. I never even discussed that.
Language?
What I said was is that Muslims claim that the Quran has never been changed, and that there's only one Quran, and yet they are saying that in the face of all the evidence that contradicts them. You have quoted two scholars who both said the same opinion, but you never quoted any evidence to their opinion. If I came up to you with the opinion about X, Y, or Z, quite rightly you would say, where's your evidence?
Well, no, if you can.
So I'm claiming that the Quran has been changed. I'm providing evidence.
That's not evidence. You're using a scholarly interpretation.
Right.
The same way I use a scholarly interpretation.
Right. So this evidence is threefold. Remember, right? What are my three strands of evidence? Do you remember?
Well, you said about the two different parts of the verse.
Right. So my first strand of evidence is from Fadl Solomon's Bridget translation of the Quran, which notes itself different readings of the Quran. Okay. So
can you send me that?
Yeah, of course. You can find it on Quran.com, which is an Islamic website.
Yeah.
Fadl Solomon is produced by Muslims. It's not some Christian missionary invention.
What's the verse number?
We're looking at Surah 2, verse 106. And Fadl Solomon has noted differences in Qira'at. Okay? My second strand of evidence was archaeological, which was someone took the 1924 version of the Quran and compared it to your most ancient copies of the Quran
Talking about the Bible.
and found.
We don't have 98 version of the
Don't
Bible.
allow him to interrupt.
No,
This
you
is
did
just
it
rude
last week.
behavior.
You did last week. You did it last week, yeah?
Hey, if you want to
Yeah.
join this conversation, Sam,
I'm talking.
Sam,
I'm
listen,
talking.
listen.
No,
Sam,
dictate me.
if you
No
would
dictate
like-
me. No dictate
if
me.
you would like to have a
No dictate
conversation,
me. No dictate me.
I'm saying-
No dictate
I'm
me.
saying
No dictate
that-
me. No dictate me.
He's just trying to disrupt.
You can dictate me.
You're
You
just
can
losing
dictate
the
me. You
debate,
can
Sam.
dictate me.
You're just
You
losing
can
the debate.
losing debate from
This
a
is what
chicken like
happens
you.
when you come
You
out of your home
dictating
without
you.
your
You're
medicine.
dictating you. You can dictate me.
Right, you gotta
No
take your
teach me
pills in the
why-
morning, bro.
No,
Seriously.
that's what you do. That's why you are fat. That's why you are fat. No.
Yeah, he's asking you to go away.
I don't care.
Right.
Speaker corner.
So let's try.
Last week,
Okay, let's
we
try
did
and
same thing
continue.
to two brother.
Let's try and
Today,
continue.
This one another brother.
Brother, I'm
doing
going to
same
try and
thing.
continue
I'm
our
doing
conversation,
same
okay?
thing.
Right, he can
I'm
interrupt
doing same
as
thing.
much as he likes, but I'm going to keep talking to you, and I want you
Yeah,
to keep
because you are
talking to me.
coward. That's why.
So
Can you-
my second strand of
Can you
evidence
talk about the Bible?
was
Why you
that-
don't teach him
was
about the
that
Bible? We know
my
now
second
the
strand of
Quran
evidence
is not truth. Why you don't?
when comparisons between modern Qurans and ancient Qurans show us that the Qurans have been changed.
That's
And
false.
the
That's a lie.
third strand of evidence, the first strand of evidence that I gave was hadiths. Now, I'm willing to accept your scholar's opinion if you can show me what evidence they're basing their opinion on. An opinion without evidence is just that. It's just an assertion.
But it's not just an opinion. It's not my opinion. It's a historically accepted hadith scholar's opinion.
But that's a logical fallacy. It's appeal to authority.
No, it's not an appeal to authority.
Right, so I appeal
Because
to the
if I-
authority
if I-
of the
if I-
Pope.
No, I'm
Go
sorry.
on, go on.
If I read what a Bible scholar says about a verse,
Yeah.
is it sufficient for me to reject his opinion? It's
If
not,
he's wrong-
because I'm not a Christian.
If he
and
makes,
that's not my book.
but if he
he's a
makes,
scholar,
but if he makes unsubstantiated claims about the Bible, everyone should reject his
no,
opinion.
I'm sure. No, I agree with the fact that everyone should bring evidence. But do you really want me to sit through Imam Nawawi's works to find the evidence for you?
Well,
Right
surely,
now?
if he's making a claim, he's provided
No,
the
but do you want
evidence
me
for
to
you.
read to find his work right now?
I want you to show me the evidence he made his claim on. Yes.
So you want me to find it right now?
Yes, I want you to find it.
Okay, and if I can't locate it online because it's
Then
located
come back
in
next
Arabic
week when
book-
you've got it.
I don't come here every week.
Well, come when you do.
By
Right.
the way, Bob also has a YouTube channel. You can go on his YouTube channel.
Yeah, I've seen his YouTube.
Right.
Bring your evidence.
So, no, I'm
go
sorry.
on.
We're still on the verse. Man.
Yeah.
So I'm sorry. I can't find the place that you're showing me the thing.
I believe it was Surah 2.
No, I'm at the ayah. But where
ayah
did you get
100 to
the?
106.
Yeah, but where did you get the that part where it says that?
So you got to go to Fadl Solomon's. You got to get Fadl Solomon's Quran up, and he's the one that highlights it. Fadl Solomon's
I
Quran.
swear that name sounds familiar.
Yeah, I mean it was a big deal when it was published because this is the first time that you've ever had a textual corpus in the Muslim world that identifies textual variants in your Qurans, and that's why it's a big deal. That's why everybody knows about it.
But you didn't give me archaeological evidence, which you claim.
I'm going to give it you right now.
Go on.
So archaeological evidence, okay? So these multiple post-production insertions of Allah in several 1st and 7th century Qurans.
Right.
So Dr. Daniel Brubaker had access, because he's an academic, he had access to some of your most ancient Qurans that are kept in museums around the world.
Right.
And you can also have access to these. They're all being photographed very extensively.
If you go to calling Christian, he refute all this argument, all the book, fully.
Great, so
fully.
you'll have no
Him
problem.
and
You
the
can just
book.
pull up calling Christian.
Calling
and
calling Christian and
yeah.
the...
I'm sorry.
But no, let me finish my archaeological evidence.
You know when calling Christian come,
okay,
the
I'm
coward
going
they
to
ran
now
away.
present
He
my
didn't-
archaeological
Wallahi,
evidence to everyone
I
else,
have
and
the
if you
video
don't want to
channel.
listen, that's up to
I
you.
have the video
So
channel.
here's the archaeological
And the coward, they
evidence.
ran away from him,
Right?
because he can't
And he's
debunk
not
him and
listening
debunk
anymore.
the
He's
Trinity.
running away from the debate.
He's a coward.
Yeah? So
Did you run from
it says, right,
from
this
calling
figure,
Christian?
this
Did you run, yes
picture
or no?
here,
Did you run away
right,
from him, yes or no?
is
Did you
an
chicken out, yes or
example
no?
where Allah
you chicken out,
has
yes
been
or no?
inserted. Look,
Did you chicken out?
Allah has been
He can explain to
inserted
you why you
into
chicken
the
out,
text.
why you coward, why you
Allah
run
has
away
been
from him.
inserted into the
Why you
text
run away
in all
from
of
him,
these
you coward?
places.
He can explain to
Clearly
you.
being done by a different.
Coward, chicken out,
Clearly
coward.
being done in a different pen, right? Take your pills, Sam. We love you, Sam.
That's why you are fat.
We love you, Sam.
He loves me,
Right?
but you see,
So the
you are
Umayyad Codex.
That's
These are changes to the consonantal script.
why you run away from
These are
Christian when we come
changes to the
explain
consonantal
you, coward,
script.
chicken out.
And we see from archaeological evidence that at different times in Islamic history, there were variants of the Quran that don't match today's Qurans, and Muslims have had to insert words into their old Qurans to correct them for being different. So how would you like to respond to that?
Okay, so you're saying there's an insertion.
I mean, it's clear, you can see it yourself.
Right, and then there was a correction.
Wait 1 second. Do you agree that that is an insertion?
I don't know what that is, but it looks like an insertion, yes.
Thank you very much.
But no, insertion and a correction.
Yes.
Okay.
Are they correct? When you insert something into a text, are you correcting the text?
Yeah, it could be, yeah.
Yeah, there you go.
Okay,
so we've established it's an insertion and a correction.
So if they had the manuscript at the time,
yeah,
and they noticed that something maybe was mistaken, or,
yeah,
or something was recorded incorrectly,
yeah,
and they make a correction to it, what's the problem?
Right. So here's the problem.
Okay.
When you combine these 3 layers of evidence, that I've established.
But you didn't establish one. One was
yes, I did.
You rejected a hadith scholar's interpretation.
Correct, because he gave no evidence, and you gave no evidence to his explanation.
I'm not sitting here with an encyclopedia on my back to give you evidence.
Brilliant. Go and look at the encyclopedia and come back when you've got it.
Why don't you give me your email address? I'll email it.
I will do.
Okay, go on.
Yeah, I will do. I would like to see this
and
evidence.
And then the second one was a verse where you showed me on Qur'an.com where there's a difference, but I can't read the same part that you're trying to show me.
Right.
And you said you have to go to
I'll get it for you. I'll show it you again. There's my email address. You can get in touch with me. Right? Because I want to see, because here's what I'm saying. I'm saying that your scholars are lying to you. Your scholar is lying to you when he claims to have knowledge about what happened in the past. He's a filthy liar. I'm saying that about both scholars. Right. Now prove me wrong by showing me the evidence that he provides for his opinion. For his assertion.
So you're making a claim that he's lying.
Yeah. That's right. So prove me wrong.
Okay, no, but you made the claim that he's lying.
Yeah.
Right.
Because he has provided no evidence.
Relies on the claimant, does it?
Right. Yes. And here's my evidence.
Okay.
He has provided no evidence for his claim. Prove me wrong.
So your evidence is that he has provided no evidence.
Correct.
Okay.
He's claimed knowledge without providing evidence. That's a lie.
Okay.
It's just an opinion.
If you're picking out, for example, this abrogated verse as being incorrection, and you're picking out something that was written to correct an perhaps incorrectly recorded manuscript at the time, which you seem to have a problem with. So why do you justify all the differences within the different Bibles?
Right.
Because you're picking out a verse that is. It should it's acceptable to me that a hadith scholar says that this was abrogated by speech, but if you're going to focus on that verse which is not related to core values or anything like that, but you have differences within the Bible, how do you reconcile that?
Right. So the simple answer to that question, I think it's about to rain. The simple answer to that question is this.
Yeah.
Christianity is not a book-based religion. It's based upon the doctrines of the faith, the message of the faith.
Okay.
Every scholar, including Dr. Bart Ehrman, Dr. Daniel Wallace, Dr. Bruce Metzger, agree that no textual variant in the Bible affects any Christian doctrine. But it is a doctrine of Muslims to believe that the Quran has not been changed, let me finish, and that it is protected. So if I am evidencing to you from your hadiths, from archaeological comparison, and from acknowledged textual variants between Qira'at, then I am evidencing to you change to the Quran. And simply quoting a hadith scholar who believes a priori that the Quran has never been changed, and then comes up with an explanation that affirms that the Quran's never been changed, without providing any actual evidence other than his opinion, is a logical fallacy. It's a logical fallacy because it's a myth. It's called the appeal to authority.
I got it.
It's like me saying to you this. The Pope is an authority about the Bible. The Pope says Jesus is God, therefore Jesus is God. Do you now accept that Jesus is God because the Pope says so? He's an authority.
No, but I accept,
he's a scholar.
No, but I accept that he represents Christianity, and if he says that's the case, then perhaps a lot of Christians believe that.
But is he wrong?
No, but that's not the point.
Answer the question.
That's
is
irrelevant.
he wrong?
You stumbled now because that's
Is he
irrelevant.
wrong?
What you're saying is that you don't want to take the hadith scholar because I couldn't produce the evidence because I don't have his full works with me. But you're saying that if the Pope says that Jesus is God, do I personally accept Jesus as God? that's not what we're talking about. We're talking about, do I accept that he believes it? Do I accept that's his belief? Do I accept that this is a significant portion of Christians' belief? I do,
Right.
because that's what they believe.
Do you accept that the Bible?
me?
Wait 1 second.
Do you agree?
I
with
get
my
what
point?
you're saying, but no, I don't agree, because what you're doing is you're changing the comparison that's
Not
been
at
made
all.
falsely.
Not at all.
Let me
Not at
break
all.
it down for you like this. Let me
Go
break
on.
it down for you like this. And I don't genuinely know your opinion on this. Do you believe that the Bible teaches that Jesus is God?
I would assume so.
Okay, great. Then in that case, I'll not pursue that argument further. However, here's my reasonings for rejecting your scholarly quotes.
Right.
Because all that I heard was another opinion. The fact that two opinions agree doesn't make it a truth. You have to provide evidence. So what I want to see is evidence of which hadith they are basing their argument on, not simply the assertion
Okay.
that something
so
occurred.
Again, you've changed the.
No, I really haven't.
You really have, because I'm telling you, this is a belief of Muslims based off of scholarly text. Now, what their in-depth research was on this, I'm not sure. But I'm happy to accept the words of a scholar the same way that if the Pope says Catholics now believe this, or Catholics do believe this, I cannot tell the Pope that no, they don't.
Right.
Right?
I mean, Muslims do that here all the time.
No. But,
Muslims
no,
do
no,
that
but-
here all
no,
the
no,
time.
but that, you get my point, right?
Yeah, but I'm not what I'm saying
Because
to you.
you're not accepting our belief as Muslims.
No,
that-
let's be clear. What I'm saying is, I am not accepting the opinions of your scholars unevidenced. That's what I'm saying. I accept as a Muslim, you believe the Quran's never been changed. I accept as a Muslim,
Yes.
you believe what your scholars have told you to believe.
Right.
But what I'm saying to you is, I think your scholars have just pulled the wool over your eyes. And if they haven't, show me the evidence they're basing their opinions on. I accept you believe their opinions, but their opinions are not good enough for me. I want evidence. Let me give you an example of...
Okay, no, sorry, 1 second. Before we move on, the archaeological evidence...
Which we're about to come to.
Yeah, but apparently you've already showed it to me.
I'm going to show you some
in
more.
those manuscripts where there's insertions and corrections.
Yes.
So if someone at the time corrected something that was misrecorded, you didn't explain why that's problematic.
Right. So here's the reason why it's problematic.
Okay.
Right? Firstly, you have to demonstrate who did it and when they did it. You can't.
I don't know. I mean, I might not be able to, but that doesn't mean that there's no evidence for it.
Right. Well, I would like to see who did these corrections, because no one seems to know who did it. But secondly, here's the problem.
Right.
Because it means that for a certain time in history, and we don't know how long that time is, could have been just a day, but it could have been, for all we know, 150 years, and we don't know, unless you provide the evidence of when it occurred and who did it, that means for whatever length of time that was,
Right.
there were different Qur'ans in existence being recited by Muslims. Let me give you an example. So in the examples taken from the Marcel II manuscript, okay, right, there's a number of corrections that are made to the text.
Right.
One of those corrections is in Surah 6, Ayah 91, where it says Wallah, which means no, as in no, the negative, is written instead of the wow. I'm probably mispronouncing the Arabic, forgive me, which actually means and the lam alif has been omitted in the Marcel II manuscript. Now this has real significance, because depending on which Quran you believe and follow, the verse either reads you and your fathers, or it reads you nor your fathers.
Right.
So that the textual variant has an impact on the meaning of the verse. Now, if that Quran had been recited for 150 years before someone changed it, then that means we've got a period of 150 years in which two Qurans are being recited and they differ in meaning and words.
Okay, but all right, so my turn now. So you're saying, again, there's a correction. When was the correction made?
Great question. When was the correction made? No one knows.
But you're just assuming that it was 150 years later.
No, you're assuming that it was done on the same day.
I'm not assuming anything.
So when was it made?
I'm not the one that's claiming to interpret the Quran. You're the non-Arabic speaker who's claiming to
So
interpret.
what? There are Muslims interpreting the Bible who don't read Greek all the time. Move on. There are lots of Muslims that don't read Arabic.
If
Move
a
on.
Muslim, that's a logical fallacy there because someone else does it and you do it the same. So, and
I'm just pointing out you can't complain, bro. That's what I'm pointing out.
No, but why? If someone else does wrong, that doesn't mean I can't complain.
I will take your correction more seriously when I see you correct the Muslims.
So if someone mentions a biblical scholar that says your scholar says this, then I can accept that yes, the Muslim has done his research. Why? Like if you're quoting someone who is an expert in the field,
yeah,
then what's the problem with that?
Right. So the problem.
So again, by the way, we're moving from the manuscript, which neither of us knows at what point the correction was made, but you're determined that there is some mistake in it.
Okay, so even if it was just for a day, bro, it means that there were a Quran being recited that is different in meaning to another Quran.
We know that already. We saw that in
Great, I'm glad we've got that admission.
We saw that in the first hadith where it was abrogated, but the news had not reached other people that it had been abrogated. So it's not like that's the thing that makes the dominoes fall. It just means that it's something that we've already known. That sometimes the news did not reach other people. This verse has been abrogated.
Can we just be clear that at no point did we say, at no point did we see, let's just pull it up. I just want to check something. I want to make sure that what you said was accurate to the hadith. I want to make sure I remember it correctly. Right, so you've just made a claim that is not true about the hadith.
No, I didn't say it's not true.
Listen.
I didn't say it's
no,
not true.
you see, you're not even listening. You said that the hadith was abrogated, the 5 sucklings was abrogated,
My speech, yes.
and you said, and you made it, you connected that statement to a hadith. You've not quoted any hadith. You've not quoted any hadith that makes that statement. What the hadith actually says in Sahih Muslim 1452a is that 10 sucklings was substituted by 5 sucklings and Allah's apostle died. And it was before that time found in the Holy Quran and recited by Muslims. What you did not show from any hadith is that the 5 suckling ruling was abrogated. Show me from a hadith, not interested in a scholar's opinion, not interested in an assertion. Show me from a hadith that ayah was abrogated. Show me.
You said I tied it to a hadith of the abrogation. I never
Okay,
did that.
let's people watch it.
I never did
People
that.
can watch it and decide who's right.
No. Did I say that?
I believe that you did, yes. But you say no. Well, let's move on then, because people can just rewind the video and see if that's what you actually said.
I never said it's tied to a hadith. I said it's tied to a scholar's opinion.
JC will do a rewind.
Okay, I said that it's tied to a scholar's opinion.
Right. Who cares about the scholar's opinion? Where's the evidence?
Well, Muslims do. That's the thing.
Based on what evidence?
Again,
Muslim scholars disagree.
I'm not carrying Imam Nawawi's works on my back.
Muslim scholars disagree.
You've got your backpack full of evidence.
Thank you.
Okay, so you're saying that, well, evidence doesn't mean it's true or false.
Evidence doesn't mean it's true.
Yes.
Did you hear that? Evidence doesn't mean that it's
I'm sorry,
true.
But this is semantics. But you can say I have evidence. It might not be very good evidence. You understand that, right?
Right.
Right.
But that wouldn't be evidence then, would
so
it?
Take back your guffaws because
I'll concede on that point. I'll give you that point. Fair enough. Right. That's a fair point.
So again, if you're going to say that I tied it to a hadith, I never did that. What I said was we have a hadith scholar. If you want me to, I could probably go and do some research. But
please do.
But do you know what's quite disingenuous about your approach?
Go on.
Is that you come with the flaw. Like if I have a question about Christianity and I think, oh well, that's strange. Why do Christians believe that?
Would you like me to address your questions?
No. I don't want to. What I'm giving you an example is why do Christians believe that? I go and look up why do Christians believe that.
Yeah.
I don't go and say that, oh, but you believe this, and then try to tell people that your people have been lying to you, because especially if I'm not well versed in Christianity.
Okay, so allow me to reply to that.
Before you reply.
Is from footnote 3 of Fadl Solomon's Quran. Because he tried to argue that the Arabic word is the same, it could just be read in one of 2 ways. So I use footnote 3, where the Arabic, well, people can decide whether you said that on camera. The Arabic in one version of the Quran is translated, cause it to be forgotten. In another version of the Quran, in another reading of the Arabic, it is postponed it. Now your argument tries to suggest that the Arabic is the same, only the way it's read is different. So my question therefore is, is the Arabic words cause it to be forgotten identical to the Arabic words postpone it? And you didn't answer that question. The reason why you didn't answer that question is because we both know it doesn't and it isn't. And the reason why it isn't therefore demonstrates that Ibn Kathir was reading a different Qur'an when he read this in Surah 2, Ayah 106.
You picked out a truncated footnote, and
Yes.
you're saying Ibn Kathir and Ibn Amr, Abu Amr read it as.
Look how it's highlighted.
No, I'm sorry, but look how it's highlighted.
Look how it's highlighted.
That's not the
Let me
point.
see.
The point is,
Look how it's
this is
highlighted.
how two people read it as, how they understood it.
Look how it's
Doesn't mean
highlighted.
The Arabic was different.
The Arabic was still the same.
Were you here at the beginning of the conversation?
You see how it's highlighted?
So do you remember that when he
So,
said to me that it's
He's
been
trying to show you
abrogated and
from the
then commanded to be
highlight
abrogated?
that these words are
Yes.
replaced by these words, by the
In
highlight.
1 second, I've
Right,
just
and if
explained
you
to
look,
that knowing Arabic,
The
before
Noor
interpretation of
corresponds to
is
the
important
Noor
because
up
with
there,
a very basic Arabic level
and
that
the
even I know that
and
you can either
bear with
command
us one
something
second,
with one word
and the unless
or you
we
can say, I am
corresponds
commanding you
to
as a
the
full sentence.
unless we here.
So it's not as clear cut.
So I'm not, yeah. I'll just show you again. Fadl Solomon.
I've seen it, but what
Right,
you're-
no, one
my
second.
point is that you're pointing out one footnote.
Yes, truncated. That was your argument.
Yeah,
it was
okay.
truncated.
No, I don't care
But
that
look
it's
how it
truncated.
truncates it.
But it
The
clearly
Noor
says-
there, the
it
Noor
doesn't-
there,
It
the
doesn't say
Noor
the Arabic
there.
is different. It says
It
Ibn
does.
Kathir and Abu
It
Amr
does.
read it as.
Right, so are you now saying that the words postpone it and the
That's
words
not
cause
what
it to be
means.
forgotten
Read
are
it-
identical?
Read it as could also mean that this is what they
And
understood. it as.
answer question.
Not to mention that Ibn Kathir.
So what you're saying is that this is not a translation of the
So
Arabic.
you're telling me that Ibn Kathir had a copy of the Qur'an
Yes.
that was different to
Yep.
everyone else's copy.
No, I'm saying that he was aware of a textual variant in the Quran.
So
yeah.
when he did his like 10-volume tafsir of Qur'an,
Yeah, he used a different Quran to the one you're using.
okay, so how come there's not more differences in it?
I'm not.
In Ibn Kathir's tafsir.
Right, one second. So firstly, how many differences is irrelevant to the question? If there's one difference,
I'm saying
the
it's-
Quran
I'm
has
saying
been
it's-
different.
I'm saying
Well,
it's
sorry, are we going to
illogical-
just talk over one another?
No,
now?
but I'm sorry, but it's
So
it's
no, are we
illogical-
just going to talk over one another?
Go on.
Right. So the fact of the matter is, you made a big deal about it being truncated. Let's be clear. The word, the quote that is truncated reads fully as this: "No postpone it unless we."
In English, yes.
But the highlighted
In
part,
English,
like,
yes.
I'm now just going to talk over you whenever I want. Don't complain when I do. Right?
You've done it a
So,
lot.
and I'm just going to raise my voice, guys. I'm just going to raise my voice. So the truncated part of the text says, "No postpone it unless we," which corresponds, when you look at the highlighted bit that it's comparing it to, it reads, "No cause it to be forgotten unless we." The words "no" and "unless we" are not highlighted in either text.
In English.
In other words, meaning that the Arabic had the words in one version, "cause it to be forgotten," and in another version, "postpone it." There is no way on earth
In English.
that in the Arabic, the words "cause it to be forgotten" and "postpone it" are identical in Arabic. They're
That's not
not.
what that means.
And the idea that he read it as "postpone it" when someone else read it as "cause it to be forgotten" simply means that the Quran is a nonsensical language that people just make up as they read it, ladies and gentlemen.
Okay, so now that you finished, are you telling me that Ibn Kathir and Abu Amr read it as, you're reading this in English, is sufficient evidence to prove that it was different in Arabic?
Do you read a text?
Is it different in Arabic?
Answer the question. Do you read a
I
text?
asked you a question
Yes,
first.
yes, it's different in Arabic.
If that's sufficient,
Yes, it's different in
if that's-
Arabic.
If that poor amount of evidence is sufficient,
Does
for
it
you-
say they read
if-
something?
No.
It says
If
Ibn
that poor
Kathir
amount of
and
evidence-
Abu Amir read. Do you read a text? Yes.
Is it
Therefore,
sufficient
if they are
evidence-
reading a text that is different, is the text different? Yes.
Okay. So you think that's sufficient? If that's sufficient for you, but Hadith scholars' interpretation is not sufficient. for you.
Correct. Because
That's
one is
just
based on
absolutely true.
evidence,
So one is a
and
Hadith
the other
scholar
one.
saying that this is what the Hadith means, and we have Bob in Hyde Park saying
Yes.
this is not what the Hadith
And
means.
because the Hadith
Wow.
scholar never quotes
That's
any Hadith to justify his opinion. He just asserts an opinion and he gives no Hadith.
But my point is that he's
Brother,
reading something
I'm
in
gonna
English,
stop.
which is written in Arabic, and You can't just.
Whose
read it
microphone's
one for one.
in this?
Arabic has. No, I get his point. But what
Yeah, I'm
I'm
gonna
saying
stop.
is-
Go on, get a cup of tea.
He's not having
What happened there, Bob?
So basically, the argument that we had is about whether the Quran has been changed. I provided 3 strands of evidence. First strand of evidence, archaeological examples of changing the text. Hadith evidence, Sahih Hadith evidence from Sahih al-Muslim, testifying to the fact that the Quran at Muhammad's time is not the same as the Quran that we have today. I laid the brother down a very simple challenge. Show me the verse in the Quran that Aisha said was there at the time of Muhammad. In response to that, he quotes some scholars and their opinions, but he never quotes what evidence the scholars are basing their opinions on. In other words, they're just assertions unevidenced. But the hadith he accepts as being real. And then I quoted from Fadl Solomon's Textual instrument, which is an Islamically produced book published on an Islamic website that testifies to the fact that Muslims read a text and that text had different words from other texts of the Quran that Muslims are still reading. So in other words, ladies and gentlemen, you have 3 strands of evidence that shows that the Quran has been changed. And we have heard no good reason to believe that the Quran has not been changed. He tries to say it's about how they read it. Well, don't you read a text? So the fact of the matter is, the assertions are not validated by the evidence. The evidence contradicts a fundamental Islamic belief. At this point, Muslims talk about different Bibles. Well, no textual variant of the Bible affects any Christian doctrine. Christian doctrine was there before the New Testament. So it doesn't have the same impact because we don't see the Bible in the same way that you see your Quran. This is a Muslim problem, it's an Islamic problem, it's not a Christian problem. You're projecting onto us the problems in your own religion.
Any message to Muslims who still believe that there's only one Quran, Bob? Or the last question.
Well, obviously it's not true.
Thank you, Bob. See you later.